John F. Bordenstein Jr. and Virginia M.D. Thank you. Just so anybody that's interested, this is the map that was put on display for our Finding Rosendale public meeting. Anybody that's interested in taking a look at it, we're going to leave it up as we're going along and working on it, just so people can kind of see what we're working on for connectivity and circulation, and key places that we identified where we needed to do things. And then next to it is some designs for wayfinding, some signs that, different ideas and designs for what we might want to do for signage. So we'll be having 2 more meetings, and just thought it would be good if people could see this, so they could, if you want to come to the next meeting, you might want to give some more input.
The next meeting is a visioning session for the public, so if you're strongly encourage the public to attend.
I would just like to mention a couple things that are coming up in December. On Sunday, December 7th, from 12 to 5 is Commitment to Kids at the Bloomington Fire Department. And anyone who doesn't know, that is a very, very successful, long-running toy drive for the underprivileged children in our county. And I recommend, if you're looking for a way to give holidays, that's a great place to do that. And they do a great job of distributing toys throughout the county. I also want to mention on December 13th is Rosendale. We will still be serving our hot chocolate. Our town clerk and different elected officials will be there to serve, and that will be shifted since we no longer have our town hall on Main Street. We'll be using the building that I have on Main Street, which has a vacancy in it, so we're able to use that. It's right next to the cafe. And we will be closed December 26th along with the 25th. That's a supervisor's prerogative, and I'm going to give the day off to the employees. And on the 31st, we'll close at 2 o'clock. And of course, we're closed on New Year's Day. I will ask John, are you available on New Year's Day?
Yeah.
For a swearing in
Oh, yeah,
ceremony?
sure.
Okay, we'll probably arrange for something for you to swear in on the first.
Where's that gonna be, up here?
I'm thinking here, but we'll discuss it, and I think we'll probably do it here. Yes, Bill?
Also on Sunday, December 7th, the first winter farmers market at the rec center,
Oh,
10 a.m. to 2 p.m. First
okay,
Sundays of the month except for April.
Did you say 9 to 2?
10 to 2.
10 to 2, okay.
I'll probably be at 8:30 to 3, but
Bill, starting when?
10 to 2 are the official hours. Starting this Sunday,
Got it, thank you.
first Sunday of the month except for April, because the first Sunday's Easter will be on April 12th, I believe.
And then the only other thing, I would just want to say congratulations to the Picklefest, because I think it was very successful. I got a lot of good feedback about the new layout, and many people thought it was great. So I'm glad to see that was successful and worked out well.
A lot of people seem to like the fact that the food tent, the craft tent, and the pickles, instead of being all mixed in together, I guess targeted shopping works well.
Yeah.
I thought it was such a noticeable difference in the flow and the space. It was like, I thought, a really great improvement. Just, you weren't so jam-packed in there with so many people. You could really see things, and it was great. It was really
We're
great.
just blessed to have good weather that day. Imagine it had it been Monday morning's rain on Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think there might be a little tweaking as you go forward,
Yes.
to make it a little bit friendlier for cold weather, but I think it was a really nice event, and I think that my feedback from many people was that it was important that they could move around, and I think it was a good.
As with every festival, every year we get new wrinkles, we iron them out.
That's
Next year,
right.
new wrinkles
That's right.
pop up.
You know what, Bill, just for a note, for next year, I did the cleanup with Tony McGinty and Pape,
Yes.
and I noticed some of the vendors didn't want to walk to the dumpster, and they were stashing stuff behind the youth center.
Aha.
So for next year, if we
Correct.
can make a notation to make sure vendors discard their garbage.
They're
And
supposed to tip the cleanup guys at night for doing that.
I got a tip.
All right.
Yeah, they told me don't do it again because you're not getting any money here.
So I would, you know, any other input that might, the public might have, or any other community events? I know Bill said farmer's market, anything else? We're gonna make this a short meeting, because, pretty much, these are, things that we're gonna pretty much handle next week, but we'll just breeze through now. Evolution Technologies, is the company we use for internet support. We also have a contract that we started this year with them to handle police. So we have 2 contracts, because they do a lot more, work to help manage their accounts, so that's why they have a separate account with the police. That will do next week. That's why there's 2 of them. These rates did not go up for the same. The next thing is a resolution for the allowance for Association of Towns, and that's pretty much the same. We did a little research today, and we can get a special rate starting if I get it in tomorrow, so I'm gonna do that tomorrow. But same rate as before.
Same hotel.
Same hotel.
Same room? It's asking a lot.
They were great. That's a
Yeah,
nice
that was
place.
Yeah. And we didn't have to pay for.
Much cheaper than staying
Much
at
cheaper.
the
It's like
conference
It's like
center.
$150 cheaper than staying at the conference center.
Since John's the new kid on the block, he can haul our luggage from Port Authority up to the thing. Don't worry, we'll direct you,
We-
follow us.
We take the bus, but that's a little bit cheaper too, so, but, you know, people can take the train if they want, but.
I'm walking this year.
Okay.
Really save money.
I would like to fill in the blank of official delegate will be Robert Ryan, since I hadn't spoken to him before before we, that's the, and I hadn't talked to Bob before we did the printout of this, so that's on there. And then, budgetary transfers, you can see there's quite a few, shifting of some money. If you guys have any questions about any of these. Sometimes, some of them are just transfers interdepartmental, but some of them are,
So I have a question, did the street lighting go up?
it went up a little bit, which I did incorporate into this, coming up this year's budget, so, went a little bit more than I thought, you know, that's, I guess Randy's working on getting some, feedback on, did you get anything from the fire department, Sarah? No? No, okay, nothing.
I'm curious because it's a flat rate, so we
Yeah.
should raise. Or I guess it was just a flat rate.
We have some increase there.
Well, we'll be
It's,
changing that over soon,
yes,
hopefully.
try to make some changes there. That's why I wanna, hopefully, you know, we get the push on that to get that addressed. And then I'm gonna, just briefly introduce, and if you guys have any questions, you might wanna ask Mandy. She's done some, research on getting credit card services for the town with it, and she found a, company that's willing to do it with no fees to the town, which is one of the reasons we never did it in the past. I think we'll have to figure out a few things about certain types of charges, how we work it out, like if somebody wants to buy a pool pass and things like that, you know, how are they gonna do that, because all the purchases would be at town hall, so. But there, you know, we know that it'll help streamline some of the things like, transfer station. I think being able to pay your taxes that way will be a nice addition for most people. Yes,
You said no fees to the town,
correct.
but the upcoming trend is where the consumer gets hit for whatever fee it would be.
Well, that's their choice, though.
I don't know if that's legal in New York State or not, but I know other states were doing it last year, and now it seems like it's coming to New York, so.
It is, and, you know,
The cost of convenience.
It's the cost of convenience, and if people don't, it's something that we get asked a lot, you know, will you take a credit card? And, this is just one way to do that. But I think that, you know,
On the
some,
back, it has the fees of what different payments you make, how much they charge the person.
So free is not necessarily free.
free to us, not
Free.
free to the.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no charge to us if they use a credit card.
Correct.
Correct.
Typically, typically a merchant pays
Right.
a percentage of the purchase when somebody uses a credit card.
That's why a lot of
And
times.
we have never had a credit card service because we didn't want to incur
Right.
that cost. But this is an opportunity for someone to use a credit card services, but they will have to pay, and the town will not have any fees.
And so if they call, it's a call center operated by GovPayNet.
Yes.
You said that the transfer station, just like.
We would keep it here. At the transfer station, you can bypass, you can buy
Right, you could do
coupons.
that here.
So if they want to buy with their credit card, they can do it.
And how about the courts?
The court has their own credit card system. It's
Oh, they
different.
do have
don't-
one.
Yes, they do.
For the, the fees for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Usually like 2.4, 2.6.
I don't know if the amount.
From 1 cent to $50 on the internet, you're gonna pay, the user is gonna pay $1.50. If it's a telephone transaction, which goes, I guess, through their call center, same, from 1 cent to $50, the user pays $5.50 fee. But it's looks fairly reasonable on the internet side of things, up to.
It's like a flat fee, right?
Yeah, well, it's their brackets. The upper end, the top of what they listed here is 150 and 1 cent to 200 is a $7 service fee.
That's a good.
Yeah.
I think the way, when I spoke to the gentleman on the phone, he says people want to use their credit card, so you pay that $1.50 and it saves you that in gas.
Yeah.
That's how he was explaining it. And experience from working at the court and people using their credit cards and paying online, they didn't care. They just wanted to pay it and not come in, really. And I know a lot of people come in with their water and sewer bills. I want to pay online, I want to pay with my credit card, and, you know, it will help them. You know, 'cause some people go away too for long periods of time and can't get their payment here, so it might be easier too.
Might
I
be better
think,
financial reporting too, to have it that way.
yeah, I think it's an opportunity for people not to get behind in their payments on things because that's what happens sometimes. They don't have the cash, so they wait. So that will do next week. If you have any questions, we can,
Secrets.
did you
Yeah,
have any
questions,
other
secrets.
information about that? If somebody calls in, how are we getting the money then? How is that? Is it directly into our
It will
account?
go directly into our accounts, and they'll link each department to their own accounts, as in, you know, I keep in all the money for the accounts, they go in my account. and then-
I'm assuming you wouldn't be able to use it for like your hunting license and stuff.
Yes, they
You
can,
can, yeah.
because it will link to my DEC account.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Fishing.
And then what happens then? Are you gonna have to send it to them?
The money.
No, their ticket, like their, like if you had to give them something that they're buying online.
That, they're not gonna, they can, the DEC, they do that, if they do it online, they do it through the DEC website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can, but if they come in, that's the way they can pay with it.
What about, if somebody, I think we're gonna have to limit what they can buy online, because if you wanna get them transferred.
Well, the online is only for certain things as in, mostly for Teresa and
Yeah.
Deb.
Okay.
It's for the tax
Taxes.
collecting
Yeah.
and the water.
Because anytime you have to hand them something, they gotta be in the room, or, you know, you're gonna
Right.
incur the postage costs otherwise, you
Right.
know, sending it to them. Okay, good. And
Was
now-
it busy this year with hunting? Did you sell, was a lot of people purchasing licenses?
Yeah,
Really?
there's a decent amount. It was pretty much when it was closer to the season and the DMPs, those were very popular. But it was pretty, I thought pretty good.
So,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
What's that?
What's
Because Gander Mountain was down for a while.
Oh,
Because they have to have a licensed person that was trained to use the machine, as when Michelle was already trained. So they allowed her to train me, which, you know, really isn't that complicated.
but they
But
would, yeah,
they wouldn't let them use their machines, or in Walmart for a while too. So a lot of people are going to the towns to
That's
get their
better.
license.
better.
Mm-hmm.
So just briefly, we are not going to pass the overlay district tonight, because we've gotten quite a few comments, and we're gonna do a little bit more work on it, and I expect that it's probably gonna go before. We discussed whether we should try to set up another meeting in December, and I kinda think we'll be pushing it, so I'd like to just push it off until January. But I will just give you a heads up that we're looking to take out the section that allows for vacant land to be used on the overlay district. We're going to focus on the 32 corridor and the redevelopment of old schools, and focus more on that, which will narrow it down and create a more, the goal really is to redevelop vacant buildings that are underutilized. So I think, we're working out the details, but I think we'll have it done for the January meeting.
And that short list of changes you mentioned is responding to the county planning,
Yep.
our own planning, and our citizens' concerns. So
Correct.
what was the vacant land, what was the change with that?
So we took vacant, originally the overlay district was the whole town. It's now going to be the 32 corridor, and any vacant schools in the town, or any building that had been a school previously. And then we're not going to do any, along the 32, even though we're doing the 32 corridor, there's not gonna be any incentives to do anything for any vacant land along the 32 corridor. It's only gonna be for properties that are already developed, and it's a redevelopment incentive for vacant buildings.
So, like, how will this affect, let's say, John McGolgan's?
It's gotta be,
property?
That's a
it's
redevelopment.
so it will be eligible.
It will be eligible. How will it affect the vacant land?
Any vacant land that's just a lot, they just have to go through the regular zoning.
Got it.
But the,
Understood.
next to where the hardware store used to be, I believe that's one parcel, right? And there was a fire took out part of that building, so
Right.
Yeah.
that's
And
still covered.
That's still
It's-
covered, and obviously, if somebody wanted to add land to a project, I think that would probably be allowed too. But, if it's, as long as they're redeveloping something that's been sitting there for a while, being underutilized. So
And
we're
the
just trying to-
redevelopment encompasses the property, it's not the
Right.
Yeah.
whole property, it's not just the building.
Yeah, we're gonna be quite flexible on allowing density, for anything that's multifamily. We're gonna be, flexible on allowing mixed use, and, being able to, if you have to tear the building down and reconstruct it, that will be allowed. So we're gonna be flexible on getting those buildings redeveloped, that's what it comes down to.
And we still have to stay within the restraints of the county guidelines.
County really wanted to see this be a 32 corridor, and they wanted to see, the town planning board wanted to see us look at, making sure all the adjacent properties were notified. County gave us a sample of a similar plan the town of Marlborough has, so we're going to incorporate some of the language from that into ours. but we may still, we're gonna have to discuss about overriding, because in order to include the schools, we'll have to override the county comments. So I expect that.
Their
we'll still-
uses behind, beyond Route 32 were restricted to the underlying zoning exclusively. So that would restrict our ability to consider some commercial uses for the schools that we would want to do, institutional uses, other uses. So in that respect, for that reason, might have to.
Town planning board adopted the county and asked for the notification of properties, which is something the planning board usually does. So now it'll be done at the town board level too. So some of the stuff is about having the, what's the criteria for the application, and we're also working on the SIC codes to see what would be allowed uses. So
Well-
that's kind of what's taking a while right now, is going through the SIC codes to see what's appropriate.
As far as the school, I think the benefit that we can take the short trail because it's already been sold and the intentions are already
Mental
there.
school?
Right.
Well,
Because-
that
so-
was, I don't see any reason that's gonna be, I think this board agrees that it's something we want to see happen, so I think it's just about getting the language correct and making sure that we're all.
Right. And it'll be like one of the first actions of 2015.
Yeah.
I read, the request in that, and I have no problem with it.
Yeah, so it's just about, we're trying to look at every SIC code and see what
Yes.
possible, application might happen for some of the buildings we have in mind. So I think
It's
we're-
really interesting reading the SIC codes or the
Standard.
allowable uses, allowable use codes, and they're quite comprehensive, but, they have these general categories, personal services, for instance, and it contains really amazing range of services you would think, But anyway, when you start really
Yes.
looking at what's possible, you're like, I don't want that in the school.
Yeah, so we're kind of narrowing them down to really be, if you're gonna give people incentive, you wanna make sure that it's something that we wanna see happen, so that's basically it. Now, the town board will still have the prerogative to say no to something that, we don't feel is appropriate for whatever reason.
Like incentive, like say,
Incentive is like,
if you wanna put down a pipeline and you blow off 2 town meetings.
by the way,
then you
anyway,
don't-
yeah.
So I
don't know.
understand.
Yeah.
That was just a little,
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Well, and-
Sure.
This is off topic, off agenda, but just, since our last meeting, I, contacted I should start by saying the New Jersey coalition that is working against fighting this pipeline, has a sample letter for landowners property owners who gave their permission kind of under duress, and now with the knowledge that, of what's going on, it's a letter to rescind that permission. So I just wanted to check to see if that was legal and okay to do in New York, and it is. So we have a sample letter to rescind, which I think would be great to post on the town website if we can, so that people have it available.
it's interesting that they give you permission to rescind, but talking and listening to Mr. Ruderman in the way that he was approached, which I was floored, and I've known him for many years, he's very accurate in what he is saying. It's like you can rescind it, but is there a way that they're gonna be able to
No.
do it without permission?
Well, they can't, no, not at this point.
That's
They
trespass.
What's that?
That would be trespassing.
They have no legal right to go on your property without your consent.
But then where does eminent domain fall
They
into
have to go
play?
through that process.
They have to be, at some point later in the process, if it gets that far, they have to be certified at some point by a higher authority to have that eminent domain power. They don't have that now, so,
And do we feel somewhat confident into the people that you spoke to that
yeah.
we have enough power to block this?
Well, that's, an
We're
open
just at the
question.
beginning stages
But,
now.
No, but when you
right.
were speaking to the New Jersey Coalition.
Oh, well, they're
against
very
this.
active there, and at least
Right.
15 towns have adopted resolutions of opposition, and it's starting to spread now. I mean, Rosendale really got the ball rolling, and New Paltz, town of New Paltz passed a resolution of opposition. The village of New Paltz was meeting tonight and supposedly was passing a resolution of opposition. Town of Rochester is actually tomorrow night considering a resolution of opposition, and it will be the first town not directly in the pipeline path to pass a resolution of opposition, so that's really
Just extra
great.
support
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
adjacent
So,
towns.
So it's, you know,
Nice.
picking up steam.
Well, of course, you suggested last meeting that, the more the surrounding towns and neighboring towns.
Work together, up and down,
Get together.
right?
And New Jersey had a reason to get started too, because that's where the plants are, so, you know, their refineries are there, and, you know, that's where the oil would, you know, come into, you know, so I think that they were much more aware of what the possibilities were, in, you know, upstate New York was.
Yeah, I think they also started surveying there earlier, like that's where they started, because they were responding to letters in, I think, May, or before anyone really heard of it.
So anybody who's wondering, they canceled their visit again.
I mean, they're not helping themselves by keep canceling the visit. And on top of that, canceling at the last minute, because you know what, in fairness, let's hear what they have to say with their presentation. Since they're going to landowners in our town and already approaching them. They might as well meet the lynch mob, as I wrote in the email.
Right, that's right, although the person they were sending, as, you know, we found out was a hired Albany lobbyist, you know, he wasn't, and he wasn't working for the, I mean, he was working for the company, but, I mean, he was hired to be a lobbyist for the.
He was out of work.
Okay, so, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment and history of a particular person.
Well, second.
I'm third.
I think
I know,
that's
you
our
wanna
shortest
stay on
meeting
Feels
so
like
far.
senior